Hello guys, welcome back in Goku Manhwa channel. Let's continue. The chapter opened inside the bright, glass-walled headquarters of Nova Core Dynamics, one of the divisions under the vast Liang Group. It was where Rui Chen was scheduled to attend an important strategy meeting that morning. In the previous chapter, Rui had finally patched things up with someone from his past, so he had been in noticeably better spirits these days, smiling even during briefings. Is Executive Rui here today? Of course. The word around the office was that he had been radiating good energy all week. Someone chuckled quietly, saying the boss must have sealed another massive deal. Another voice joked about the possibility of a long-overdue bonus. Zhao Han adjusted his tie nervously in the corner. He whispered to his colleague that he might not perform well during the upcoming presentation. Before he could spiral further, a senior teammate patted his shoulder. Han, you've been leading this project from the start. You've worked through every late-night revision, every client call, and every design trial. There's no reason to doubt yourself now. Just picture them as one of the smaller firms we use to collaborate with. Take a breath and focus. Relax. Zhao almost laughed under his breath. Easy for them to say. He had originally volunteered for this project because he thought Rui Chen was related to the CEO of another company he admired. The idea had been to use this partnership as a way to make an impression. But now, with Rui Chen himself present, confident and calm, the plan felt foolish. The meeting room door opened with a soft click. A hush rippled through the team as Rui Chen stepped in, impeccably dressed, his usual composed expression softened by a trace of warmth. The department head rose from his seat and made the introduction. Executive Rui, this is Mr. Zhao Han from Skyline Systems. Rui offered a polite nod, taking his seat at the head of the table as the screens flickered to life and the meeting began. Who would have thought things would turn out this way? The moment he opened his mouth, the words stumbled out before he could stop them. He caught himself halfway, but the slip had already escaped. He sighed quietly, trying to steady his voice. He had misspoken again. The room felt smaller suddenly, eyes shifting toward him. He murmured an apology and asked to start over, though the tension in his shoulders betrayed his unease. It was the mention of her ex that broke his rhythm. The thought arrived uninvited, dragging his composure down with it. The silence after that single phrase felt heavier than any reprimand. Then, without warning, the narrative slipped into memory, one of those sharp, vivid moments from years ago. Back then, Director Liang, still young and eager to prove himself, had been attending an annual tech forum hosted by the industry's elite. The hall shimmered with glass chandeliers, laughter, and the low hum of polite conversation. He had been one of the youngest directors in the room, and people whispered about him more than they spoke to him. The host, a seasoned executive with a genial smile, greeted him warmly and offered a brief apology for not being able to spend much time together. The event, after all, was overflowing with investors and dignitaries. Instead, the host's assistant, a sharp, graceful woman named Lin Qian, was asked to take care of him for the evening. Liang nodded courteously, pretending not to notice the curious glances that followed him as Lin Qian approached. Her tone was formal, but her eyes carried a quiet spark of amusement, as if she could already sense his discomfort among so many powerful faces. She led him toward the reserved section of the hall, where the company's most promising partners were gathered. Later, when he asked about her again, the host merely smiled and said that Lin Qian had been reassigned to another department. That small detail would later linger in Liang's thoughts longer than he would ever admit. Where could she have gone this time? The frustration in his tone was barely hidden. He had reminded her more than once about the reception, the kind that could decide the next few months of their partnership. Yet, somehow, she had slipped away again. The event hall was bustling, but her absence felt far too noticeable. He was about to turn back toward the elevator when a faint sting along his ankle made him pause. A thin line of red appeared against his skin, catching him off guard. He hadn't even realized his new shoes were cutting into him until someone beside him pointed it out. If it weren't for you, he muttered under his breath, I would have walked around bleeding all evening. The man beside him offered a calm smile, the kind that carried an easy confidence. He crouched down slightly, inspecting the wound with a practical air. It's fine, he said in a light tone. New shoes always bite at first. My sister deals with this all the time. I keep a few bandages with me for that exact reason. Before he could protest, the man had already pulled one from his pocket and knelt gracefully to help. The gesture was strangely intimate, quiet, efficient, and far too kind for a stranger at a crowded corporate event. When he pressed the bandage over the wound, His touch was steady and careful, as if accustomed to tending to others. There, that should do. The stranger rose and offered a reassuring nod, his expression softening for a brief second. His name, as it turned out, was Yu Hanming, a consultant from another division who had joined last week. Before the moment could stretch any further, a familiar voice echoed across the corridor. "Zhongli, what on earth are you doing here?" The voice carried irritation and embarrassment in equal measure. Startled, she turned quickly, nearly knocking over her clipboard. "I'm so sorry, sir. I didn't mean to delay." "Thank you for your help," she whispered to Hanming before hurrying off toward the main hall, her cheeks still flushed from the unexpected kindness. "It was nothing, really." He brushed it off with a polite smile, waving lightly as the assistant hurried away. A moment later, the elevator doors slid open, revealing the elegant expanse of the reception floor. The faint murmur of music and conversation drifted through the hallway. Manager Lin appeared at once, straightening his tie as he approached. "Director Ren, this way, please. The board has been waiting for you." Ren Jian nodded and followed, his expression unreadable. But before they could reach the main entrance, a familiar voice broke through the crowd. "Ren Jian, you're back already? How long this time?" He turned and saw an old colleague striding toward him, a wide grin splitting his face. The man's energy filled the room, drawing attention effortlessly. Ren's tone softened as he replied that he would be around for a while this time, that there was still plenty to take care of before the next round of overseas meetings. Manager Lin stepped forward quickly, gesturing toward the entryway where guests were already gathering. "Director Ren, this way, please. The opening ceremony is about to start." But the colleague wasn't done yet. "That's perfect timing," he laughed. "We are having a small get-together tonight. Old faces from the department, a few partners too. You should come. Consider it your official welcome back." Ren gave a faint nod, unsure whether he could decline without sounding rude. The man leaned closer with a conspiratorial grin. "And don't worry, it won't just be business talk. There'll be plenty of good company, stylish, friendly, and maybe even a few admirers waiting to meet you." Ren's lips curved into a polite but distant smile. He shook his head gently. He had long outgrown that kind of scene. "No interest," he said simply, his voice calm, though his gaze carried a quiet firmness. The colleague laughed again, clapping him on the shoulder before walking off. Manager Lin gave a relieved nod and led the way forward, leaving Ren to fall into step behind him, his thoughts already elsewhere, on something, or someone, far removed from the noise of the hall.